Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Seth Carstens, and I'm here today to shove a 30-minute presentation into a 10-minute window. But no, really, I want to talk to you today about why you should only hire owners. Now, it seems like this is a talk only for managers, but it's actually more about teams, and I want to tell you why. But first, you got to know a little bit more about me. So, what idiot put you in charge? The two people that you can blame are Josh Strebel, my Presssnomics boss, and Matt Blake, my Time Inc. boss. But really, I'm technical and I'm social, and that makes me a pretty good technical hiring manager. I've studied company culture for several years in college, and I have a passion for leadership as well. So let's do a little history lesson. In 1997, I built my first site in GeoCities, of course. And then in 1999, I was introduced to WordPress and began development there. I didn't become a people manager until 2006, and then sometime in 2012, I decided to become a WordPress evangelist, where I started converting people to using WordPress. In 2014, I became a software architect and started thinking beyond just building that one feature that one day. And now I'm the director of technology for Time Inc. for a brand called Fansided. Now, I've been through 3 acquisitions, 1 merger. I've helped organize 3 WordCamps, and I'm a Presssnomics veteran. That's right, I've been to them all. I have a background in sales, customer service, insurance, IT, business, and software engineering, and I was an entrepreneur at one time as well. I'm also married, and I'm a father of 2. Now, what does that all mean? Well, it just should give you some perspective as to how I came up with the reasons I did behind how I hire and what good company culture looks like. So let's go do a quick rundown of what I'm going to cover. I want to cover the right people, which is in the now. I want to cover the right leadership, which is the direction that the company or the team is going. And then I want to cover the right culture, which is a general mission and the long term. So anyone that's seen the Lego movie knows that Emmett wants to be special, right? It's the theme of the movie. And so if you haven't seen the movie, basically the gist of it is, there's this guy Emmett, he thinks that he's just the average everyday Joe until they identify him as the hero, and then he fakes it until he makes it, which is, the theme of the movie there, and it's just something that you should, use for yourself. And when you're hiring people, look for people with this kind of attribute. Find people that are ready to act on now, not just people who want to be something but never take any initiative. So we like to believe that every day, we leave our pets behind, right? And there's an elaborate scheme that goes on and they take on a life of their own. But realistically, that's not the case, right? What do pets do when you leave them? They take care of themselves, or maybe sometimes they don't even do that. The 9-to-5 worker bee culture that has, existed for a really long time creates that, system of pets where you come to work, you do what you're supposed to do, and then you leave and you go home. And I would just say, don't invite that kind of boredom into your team. Pets typically obey. That's great. So if you're a boss, you might want pets. But I'd say be a leader. And because leaders hire owners, because owners innovate. Owners take ownership of their projects, and they give creative solutions to problems that may come up in the process. Now, if you haven't talked to me before, one of my favorite things to talk about is the sociology theory about the cow path theory. And how it goes is something like this. If you drop a bunch of cows into a field and let them find water, the following day they will take this elaborate path, they will eventually find the water, and then they will go back the same way that they got there, taking no shortcuts, the exact same path that they had taken before. And they'll find water, and that's great. They'll get back, sunset, they're going to start to travel towards home, which is the point where they were dropped off. And then they'll go home. Now, the next day, the farmer is going to drop off cows into the same pasture. Now, instead of walking straight to the water, which is the logical thing to do, right, they go, well, I don't know if I'm going to know how to get there, so I'm just going to take the same path that I took yesterday, right? And so people follow the same schema of doing something simply because that was the way that it was done before. Now you have two options to solve this problem. You can do what they call paving the cow path, which is to lay out a path in front of somebody so that it's the easiest path to take and they will naturally take it. Although there are reasons against paving the cow path. Or the other option is don't hire cows, right? Like, I know it sounds funny, but realistically, don't hire somebody that's going to be a robot. Hire somebody that's going to innovate and not be afraid of change and be ready to take something to the next level or find the shortcut to the water. So I already talked a little bit about being a leader, not a boss, but like, what are the advantages? Well, leading breeds loyalty. You want people that want to be there, that want to stay with you and be a part of the team. And that's pretty important to my business and my teams and how I really like to shape culture at a company. Also, don't be the exception to your own rule. I constantly am battling this too. I should not be above any of my own rules. If I say that, something should be done a certain way or the team agrees that something should be done a certain way, I should have to obey all those rules too. And so it's just something that's important to your team. And lastly, own your company culture as a leader, right? It's not your employees' jobs to make the company culture awesome. It's your job to lead the group or team into being awesome. If you've hired the right people, it'll make that really easy for you. So I'm sure most of you at this point have seen the movie The Office, and I'm sure if you have, you've all recognized this scene about the TPS reports. And this is more a slide about what not to do, right? Don't set public standards that suck. And define it in the hiring process. Like, this is not what your office is going to be like. It's a funny comedy and it's something funny to talk about, but this is not ever what somebody wants to walk into on a daily basis, right? Just remember to treat people like people, and use positive reinforcement. The next thing that is that I hire based on the 3 C's, and this is something that I didn't invent, but that I use during the hiring process, and it's that I hire on character, culture, and capability. And I hire with those things in that order of priority. I want somebody who has good character first, and then somebody that fits the culture really well, right? And then I assess their capability compared to whatever job that they're going to be doing so that I can make sure that they're going to be able to do their job. But realistically, capability is the thing that's the easiest to teach, right? You can learn how to do new things a lot easier than you can, bring somebody into a culture or help redefine the character of their life. Those are things that you want to hire on. That's all about finding the right people. So if I had to give you something to walk away with today, and it was just one thing, I would say hire people that own it, that will evolve with the company, and you'll succeed with your team.